This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. Make sure you share this video and you thumbs up the videos going forward so that we could share this information with people out there. People out there that continue to get stuck in the left-right paradigm, that continue to get stuck looking at fake news, controlled information like the Daily Wire. Civilians need to realize no matter what their skin color is, no matter what their differences personally might be, that we have a lot of rich, powerful people who have waged war on the civilians around the world. We have governments that have gone completely rogue, and that's what you're seeing happening in the United States of America right now as they continue to sabotage infrastructure. The key word is infrastructure. A lot of people hear the word infrastructure and they automatically just roll their eyes or they get bored because it sounds like a boring word, right? Well, if you're paying attention to what's going on at these global meetings like the World Economic Forum, they've been talking about a new artificial intelligence infrastructure, okay? Which means in order to have a new infrastructure in place, you have to destroy the old infrastructure. So if you haven't seen what's going on around us, it's not people who are stupid like the Democrats in these Democratic cities. It's not people who don't know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing, but they know they can get away with it by playing dumb and pretending that they're doing these things because they're trying to play to a certain group of people based on their skin color, based on this. They shrug their shoulders and they walk away as they detonate the United States of America. And speaking of detonate, all one has to do is look at what just happened in Baltimore. If you haven't seen yet, the Baltimore Bridge, which I'm sure you all have seen, a scene out of a movie, a frightening scene. Some might say, if you've heard some of the stuff I've talked about on the website, right? We saw Tenet, we saw the Moscow event that occurred right out of a movie. Well, we've seen this right out of a movie as well, haven't we? Now we saw Leave the World Behind with that oil tanker driving up the beach. We've seen Dark Knight Rises. Of course, both of those films, Tenet and Dark Knight Rises, are both Christopher Nolan films. Of course, where we see a bridge detonated and we see a opera house event occur right before our eyes because this stuff is all scripted and planned in advance. And if you understand how predictive programming works, you'll understand how all this works. But what we need to focus our attention on first here is the infrastructure. Again, when I talk about infrastructure coming down, we're talking about new infrastructure being put in place. This is what the key component is at all of these globalist events, at the Bilderberg meetings, at the World Economic Forum. It is about artificial intelligence governance, which is an infrastructure that's in place where we are monitored and tracked 24/7. I'm not just talking about, your bank account being tracked. I'm talking about your steps being monitored. I'm talking about how often you leave your home, your carbon footprint. Every single thing we do will be monitored and tracked inside of this artificial intelligence governance, okay? There'll always be a boogeyman looking out after us, but we'll never know who the boogeyman is, right? Because they'll tell us it's AI. They'll tell us it's above us. It's intelligence that we all have to just respect because it doesn't see skin color. It doesn't see gender. It's doing everything neutrally. And by that, they mean they're enslaving everybody neutrally. Now, the first thing I'm going to show you here is obviously the big concern, of course. Well, it's obviously the lives lost because this could happen to any one of us. They could blow up a bridge with us on it. That's the type of war that's being waged on civilians. You could be driving on a bridge, going to Dairy Queen, and the bridge could blow up. Okay, so there's obviously going to be innocent civilians lost in these events, and it is catastrophic, it is tragic, and it is heartbreaking to think about how little they care about human lives. But clearly they've already shown us how little they care about human lives. Because we can look at all the stuff they've done in the last 5 years, and we can just look around and say, yep, they don't care about any of us. They don't care about what skin color you are, or what gender you are, or nothing. They don't care what political affiliation you have. Even if you are loyal to the Communist Party, they will still run you over and devour you. And that's exactly what they're doing. So prayers to anybody affected by this, but what it looks like is obvious sabotage, does it not? Now, some people have seen some of the footage and it looks like another detonation. Would it surprise anyone? Of course it wouldn't surprise anyone because they love to detonate things, don't they? They love to detonate things and then blame it on, they blame it on, you know what, boats, airplanes, whatever they can. And people just seem to believe it. Now, the footage itself should be enough for people to say, okay, this is just too bizarre. That a ship would steer directly into the bridge the way that it did and veer off course. Now, they tell us that the potentially could have been cyber attack. They tell us a lot of things potentially. But what it clearly is an attack on the supply chain because that is what's key here. You may remember a couple of years ago when we were all told to be afraid of the common cough, that our government was telling farmers, etc., to burn crops. They were telling companies not to ship anything. They were telling truck drivers not to go down to ports to pick up supplies, because part of this is to destroy the supply chain, because they want you to be dependent on them. He who controls the food controls the people. He who controls the water controls the people. Okay? So the more destruction that can be done to the supply chain, the less products that are in stores, the higher the prices go, the more sabotage can ensue. And of course, then more people will be dependent on Big Brother to bail them out. And there's a lot that goes into Big Brother bailing you out when you get rolled into FEMA camps or places where there's supplies available to you. Of course, you're going to need a certain something inside of your body to connect you to the internet, like some people already have. But let's start by looking at the supply chain and how that's already the topic point the media is talking about, because they want you to be prepared for price spikes and shortages again. How convenient.
While the city of Baltimore continues to recover from the devastating bridge collapse, concerns are growing over its potentially widespread impact on the supply chain. And Queen City News Chief Business Correspondent Taylor Young is in Charlotte with what we know so far.
Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge crumbling to the water below, while efforts Tuesday focus on finding those unaccounted for. Concerns over the long-term impact on the region's supply chain loom.
That's such a busy bridge, so it was very heartbreaking.
Out of the estimated 11.5 million vehicles that cross the bridge annually, Clarissa Rankin and her big rig were one of them. About once a month, she hit the road from Charlotte, carrying cargo straight through Baltimore to states up north. Now the route is no longer an option.
It can slow down a lot of things that we are providing to normal everyday necessity items, grocery stores. So it's a big impact, big.
The collapse not only impacting a major interstate and trucking corridor, Baltimore's major shipping hub is now out of commission for what could be months.
First of all, this is an unprecedented situation. We have never seen anything like it.
Lars Jensen is a container shipping expert based in Copenhagen. While he does not expect the Port of Baltimore shutdown to slow down the global supply chain, regional impact could be devastating.
What you will see is the immediate shock right now is a major impact on customers that were supposed to use Baltimore for either imports or exports.
While not as large as other ports along the East Coast, the Port of Baltimore is considered the busiest in the U.S. for car shipments, handling imports and exports for major automakers like Ford Motor.
We've had experience in managing supply chain disruptions.
In an interview with Bloomberg, Ford Motor's CFO says while it's too soon to know the exact extent of the shutdown, disruptions are inevitable.
We'll have to divert parts to other ports along the East Coast or elsewhere in the country, and it'll probably lengthen the supply chain a bit.
A longer supply chain, whether on 18 wheels or by vessel.
People don't understand how much this transportation world could impact your everyday life.
Likely to impact wait times and prices for everyday goods.
So on top of that, what else was interesting is that the Baltimore mayor decided to pop up on TV and let everybody know that he didn't think that the footage should be shown anymore of the bridge collapse because he cared so much about the families. But actually, if you look closely, and of course, conveniently, this was done at night when there would be less, well, it would be less obvious of what's going on. But he doesn't want this footage shown because he cares so much about the people. No, he doesn't want it shown because if you look closely across the entire top of the bridge, you could see what looks like little detonations going off as the bridge collapses. Because again, a ship steering right into this deliberately, are they going to tell us it's a cyber attack or it's just a ship that went, oops, it went offline and it didn't see a bridge right next to it. It went right into the bridge, right in the perfect spot to make the whole bridge collapse. Give me a break.
Give me some sense of what you thought at first light this morning when you saw the pictures of actually what that bridge looks like with the barge slammed into it there. What were your initial thoughts?
Well, it was something out of an action movie. It's something you never think you would see. And being here right now, looking at it, is even more surreal. And it just makes you think about, again, those families, those individuals that were on that bridge, those folks that even on that vessel, even more, because no one should have to endure. And I'm going to be the first to ask that CNN and everyone else stop showing the video. No one needs to see a possibility of their family member being severely injured or otherwise over and over and over again, because it's just traumatizing our community.
Fair enough.
So clearly it sounds like the mayor, the Baltimore mayor, might have been afraid of that footage looking a little bit too suspicious because he was, again, adamant that we shouldn't be playing it anymore, which of course should make all of us adamant to share the footage of the actual bridge. Just like they really didn't want a lot of the footage going around from a lot of these other false events that occur around our country because people are too emotional that anybody out there who looks at some of the footage of these school events that occur, how dare they look at this footage and question this footage? It's too heartbreaking for the families out there. So, we shouldn't actually try to question what's really going on and if this is real news or this is manufactured news. And of course, we know the answer is that it's all manufactured. Now, I talked about over on the website, another key component of this isn't just the fact that this is a large area for transport, is the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Because for people out there that don't know, Francis Scott Key is the one who wrote the national anthem. And the key component to bringing in, I should say, the New World Order is bringing down the United States of America because it's really the only country that stands in their way. It's an armed nation. It's a nation while we have half of the nation is completely brain dead. Okay, some of the dumbest people alive who think that they're intelligent. And then, of course, you have the other side who is just completely falling into the trap of the Republican MAGA death trap is really what it is, because it's a controlled trap that the government's created for these people who think that they're awake to fall into, which, again, is something I'll be breaking down on this channel over and over and over again. So they strategically had it be the Francis Scott Key Bridge because, of course, they want you to know that this is the beginning of the end of the United States of America. This is the beginning of the end of the destruction of the infrastructure in this country. And this is all done by design. This is what you call sabotage. But one thing is for sure, if you're somebody out there and you're questioning if it looks like the bridge was actually detonated or not, well, which narrative do you want to actually believe? Because if you don't believe it was detonated, do you believe that a ship was cyber attacked and its power went out and it just veered so far off course that it just drove conveniently right into a bridge that's responsible for so much coming in, so many imports coming in that are now going to not be coming in. And then, of course, the next day, the first thing the media is talking about there is, well, prices are going to go up. Well, we're going to have shipping problems. Well, supply chains are going to crash. Well, yep. Over and over and over again, right? Conveniently, that's a common theme, isn't it? Supply chain disruption. A common theme we've heard over the last couple of years that nobody brings attention to because they still think that everything's okay because they don't want to believe that they're actually under attack, and it's easier for them to point a finger at the other political party that they disagree with instead of looking at each other and going, hey, you know what? I think there's a lot of people who are pinning us against each other, causing a lot of division amongst civilians in this country, causing a lot of misery, making it very unsafe by, telling us that they're leaving the borders open, setting us up for many, many false flag events in the future, which are coming, right? This is a common theme now. And people out there need to get out of the left-right paradigm. And if you're in the right paradigm, you're no different than the left, who are completely brain dead, who think that they're born in a certain body, the wrong body, all the stuff that they believe, they're completely insane, okay? But the conservatives are just as dumb because they think that there's a savior in play here named Donald Trump, and there's not. They're putting their trust in man, and they are getting hurted. And that's, again, something I will cover over and over again on this channel and on my website. So now the main concern is the supply chain. Concerns have been raised about a ripple effect on global supply chains after a container ship crashed into a bridge. So when I say it's a common theme, it's because we heard about the supply chain issue back in 2020, right? Where it's no toilet paper, shortage of meat, right? Then we had conveniently a lot of other things that happened around it, like avian flu, and they were killing off chickens, they're killing off cattle, right? For all these bizarre reasons. Oh, their heat waves are killing off cattle. What else are we hearing? Well, we've heard over and over and over again about global supply chain problems because of what's going on in the Ukraine over there with Russia and the Ukraine, right? All of a sudden, we don't have wheat in America. Well, there's a shortage of wheat. Is there a shortage of wheat? Oh, there's conveniently a shortage. So you're not putting stuff on the shelves because most of the food products are probably going to Antarctica to be stored underground and then shoveled around between famous rich people who are the ones who are getting all this stuff while the rest of us are going to have to fend for ourselves, right? In the meantime, you're poisoning our water by derailing trains who are polluting our water supply, right? You're drying up people's well water, you're draining lakes, and you're making it almost impossible for farmers to farm. Anybody suspicious yet? Is anybody out there suspicious? Because if you're not, you were either born yesterday or you were just born a flat out fool. War has been waged. This is what you call sabotage. And that's why I emphasize what I said earlier in the video when I talk about the Democrats are playing the role of the klutz. They're playing the role of, what? Our cities are getting destroyed? That's just propaganda from the outside, even though they control the media. You have the communist Republican media, which is Fox News pretty much, and like the other, a couple of the other ones that are out there. And you have obviously the fully controlled Democrat communist media, right? So all these stories that come out about what's going on in these cities is coming out on both medias. They want you to know that these cities are being destroyed, but they want you to think it's incompetence, that it's DEI, that it's fairness, that it's equity and inclusion, right? So they could sabotage our infrastructure and force us in to this AI, artificial intelligence governance. And again, you won't be able to cough without the government knowing. You won't be able to pick your nose without them knowing. And people out there think it's a joke. They're like, I can't wait. The people out there who are responsible are the ones who are allowing it to occur. People out there who are canceling one another out, who are laughing along the way while this happens. Eventually, it's going to happen to you too. You're going to be canceled. You're going to be silenced. You're going to be monitored and tracked. And you might say, well, I don't care if they monitor and track me. I'm not doing anything wrong. Yeah, well, guess what? A lot of us like me didn't feel we were doing anything wrong either for a long time. We still don't. And we're being monitored and tracked and silenced every day. So eventually, even though your day might revolve around dressing up as Sonic the Hedgehog and grinding with other people in your spare time, well, eventually the government's going to want to know because your carbon footprint's going to be on display. And you're not going to be allowed to do any of the things you want to do. As repulsive, as lame as they might be, you are going to be under full surveillance. And by that, I mean, you won't be able to spit without say so. So this all starts, again, with the word sabotage. You'll hear the alt-right media talking about this stuff. They're like, well, it's a little bit suspicious. It's just a little suspicious. Power went out, that it steered into it. Is it Russia? Is it another boogeyman? Is it another cyber attack? It's the United States government waging war on its civilians, okay? And all the governments around the earth right now are waging war on their own civilians, however they can. They're leaving borders open. They're blowing up buildings. They're creating false flag events at public places. They're dividing us amongst each other when we should all be united in a front against this absolute insanity. And like I always say on the website, okay, it's hard for people to believe because they look at these people and how they present themselves as philanthropists. They come out on TV. They're always, they talk nicely. Bill Gates, and they give all this money to charity. This is Secret Society 101. Textbook. All of their teachings in their secret societies tell them to portray philanthropists, which is why they go out of their way to go on Oprah, go on Ellen, have those giant checks, act like they care about humanity, act like they donate money and do all these things for everybody else. It's a ruse. That's all it is. It's make-believe. We are talking about the sickest psychopaths that have ever existed. We're talking about your perception of these CIA killers like Dahmer and Bundy. Okay, the perception that you have of these Manchurian candidates, tenfold. These people are more sick, more psychotic, so much so that they will run over their own kind to get what they want ultimately, which is total control. Not money, they print it. Total control over everyone, no matter what your affiliation is to the party. Your affiliation will be to the devil, or they'll see to it that you don't exist anymore. I thank you guys for being here. More content to come. I appreciate you all greatly. God bless you as always, and your families.